Is this the start of a third world war? At the time of this recording, Iran has launched more than 300 drones and missiles at Israel, and tensions are rife. Things are being discussed right now. We have all this and more coming up in this Bharatvaarta Weekly. Namaste and welcome to another weekly. I am Roshan Cariappa. I have with me Abhishek Paul and Nirav Kanodra to run you through the news and events of the week that was. As I mentioned, we will talk about the Iran-Israel conflict that seems to have escalated. We'll talk about the reduction of urea imports in the country, which is very positive for us. And India gets the rights to the Sittwe port in Myanmar, right? And then we had Prime Minister Modi engaging with some of India's top gamers last week. And finally, we'll bring you updates from the chess candidates tournament as well, which is afoot. All of this and more on this Bharatvaarta Weekly. If this is your first time joining us, we publish content on politics, policy, and culture. Do follow or subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to. Yeah, stay updated. All right, Abhishek and Nirav, this seems to be a very, very interesting time, I should say, from a geopolitical perspective. The attack late Saturday is a major escalation of the long running covert war between the regional foes, Israel and Iran. Almost all the missiles and drones were intercepted mid-air with the help of the US and its allies, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has once again vowed to harm their attackers. Iran has admitted that their retaliation had concluded and warned the Israeli Prime Minister not to respond. Nirav, this has been in the making for a while, right? But I don't think anybody would have expected like a hot war, right? I mean, like an explicit launch of these kind of missile or drone attacks. We were discussing prior to recording as well that, all of these drones and missiles have been intercepted already. So is this just a costly signaling exercise, or is there like real intent to do harm, right? So, yeah, your thoughts on this?
So first, I'd like to reiterate, all of these views are mine and don't reflect any of my employers. So that is one thing, and it is pure speculation on my end that what it could be, or I can think about various scenarios. So if you think this all started October 7th with the attacks of Hamas on Israeli citizens. So that was there, which led to retaliation by Israel attacking Gaza and trying to uh, uh, get rid of all the Hamas leadership and Hamas leaders and get control over Gaza, so to maintain its own security. Also, as per reports, Israel attacked the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria, because they felt that they were the ones who were behind the actual attack by Hamas. So now Iran has retaliated by sending a lot of drones and ballistic missiles, which Israel has a iron dome where it sees the heat sensors, tracks the missile and shoots them down. It got help from the UK and the US Air Force as well. So this is a defense strategy. Now, it could be that this is something where Iran has shown to its domestic audience that they have retaliated, and Israel has safely intercepted all these missiles. So probably it is done and maybe de-escalates. We don't know. We will only know over time. If you look at it over the weekend, the only asset class which has been trading has been Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin, according to me, it's not a safe haven asset, but a very risky asset, a very speculative, risky asset, correlated with the Nasdaq, right? So Bitcoin fell first, and then it has bounced back a bit. So which tells you how maybe some part of the financial market thinks about it. Maybe it has ended, but we don't know. See, no one would have predicted in Feb 2022 that about a little bit over 2 years later, the Russia-Ukraine war is still going on, right? So we really don't know. Again, how the World War I and the World War II happened, those are very different circumstances. Now we have nuclear weapons and advanced drones. So this would be a very different type of war. Maybe it is in certain pockets, we don't know. And we don't know how the escalation happens. And here, if like the US is not uh, aligned with its allies, then you will have to see that how do they actually, how do the other allies respond, right? So I think that is also a key thing to watch, and we'll see what happens, and how does Israel respond to this. Like they've safely intercepted everything. One close parallel you could draw was Saddam Hussein actually attacked Israel in the 90s, just before he attacked Kuwait. And that time Israel did not retaliate back. And then there was, like, the Gulf War happened later, and that was dealt with in the ground forces in Iraq. So I don't know how this will play out, but it is interesting from an Indian perspective. Israel is an Indian ally. India is aligned with Iran as well on multiple things. India had been buying oil from Iran, oil from fuel. There are a lot of Indians who work in Israel. There are a lot of Indians who work in Iran. So I think India has to like be careful about both. For India and pretty much rest of the world, I think a big escalation in the Middle East probably leads to either the trade routes blocked. Already the Red Sea route has been blocked by the Houthis. If Iran blockades the Strait of Hormuz, then there could be a spike in oil prices, because all the oil from like Saudi, Iraq, uh, Kuwait, etc., most of it, UAE, most of it has to go through the Gulf of Hormuz before being exported out. So that would create a problem. So hopefully saner heads prevail, and this could be de-escalated, and some through back channel diplomacy, etc. Hopefully this is sorted out soon. And yeah, let's see. See, any predictions here will come out to be foolish, I would say. Uh, could not have predicted how long this Russian war has lasted. So we can't really predict how this will go on. And maybe this also has kind of distracted the world from like Gaza to like other overall regional problems in the Middle East. So let us wait and watch how this thing overall develops. I think the Indian foreign ministry has actually called for de-escalation and for both sides. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, this throws the macroeconomy in a bit of a funk again, right? I mean, because as you mentioned, I mean, oil going upwards of $100 will again be very difficult for India for sure, right? And also the US having to commit, money to this will mean again more inflation and so on and so forth. So I think for the rest of the year at least, up until the US elections and whatnot, we're going to have this kind of instability as well, right? I mean, gold has been rallying as well, along with Bitcoin. Gold has been rallying. It's up about 10% over the last month or so, I should say. Right? So, interesting times for sure. Okay. Uh, Closer home, over the past week, Chemicals and Fertilizer Minister Mr. Mansukh Mandviya said that India is on track to end the import of urea by the end of 2025. Now, this is very big. This, he said, was in line with the government's goal of reducing chemical fertilizers and promoting more alternatives for better crop and soil health. Over the past 5 years, urea imports have dropped from 98 lakh tons to 74 lakh tons, a steady decline of nearly 25%. This development comes as a breath of fresh air, considering that India's urea production plants and fertilizer production in general were on the verge of shutting down and massively increasing dependency on other countries just a decade ago. Abhishek, this is a massive positive trend, right? What are the larger consequences of this?
Yeah, I think this is like one of those silent success stories that have played out in the background where India was able to turn around its domestic production of urea, which, as you said, was on a declining trend under the previous government. So I think very quickly after 2014, the government decided that they need to restart and upgrade the domestic production capacity of urea. Number one, and number two, with various other techniques and utilizing different things other than urea as substitutes, the government has tried to reduce the demand as well, right? So increased capacity as well as reduced demand internally over time with substitutes. So this has meant that our urea imports have gone down, as you said, by 25%. I'm not very certain, let's say, that this 2025 uh, timeline will actually play out. It may take 1 or 2, maybe 3, 4 more years, but I think we are on the in the right direction for that. And in terms of so geopolitically also this helps us out, right? Because one of the largest exporters of urea, or in fact the largest exporter of urea, is Russia, right? And so with the ongoing conflict, Russia Ukraine, right? There's always the risk that our imports could be under stress, right? Or their price could shoot up. So India actually reducing their import quantity actually brings down the price of urea globally as well, right? Because there is now less demand for urea globally. India was the largest importer of urea, even though we are probably the biggest producer as well, right? Because that's the scale of agriculture in our country. So yeah, I think overall it's a pretty positive step or pretty positive development for our country.
All right. Awesome. And more positive developments. India has gained the rights to operate an overseas port in Sittwe, Myanmar, the country's second after Iran's Chabahar. The development is a part of the Kaladan River Multimodal Transit Transport Project aimed at improving and developing alternate connectivity to the northeastern states of the country. It bypasses the Chicken's Neck Siliguri corridor. This will link Sittwe port to Paletwa in Myanmar via Kaladan River waterway and connect Paletwa to Zorinpui in Mizoram through a road component. This link will not only offer an alternate route for shipping goods to the northeastern states, but will also significantly reduce the cost and distance from Kolkata to Mizoram and beyond. Well, Nirav, more positive news on the infrastructure development side of things. Always welcome. Can you talk about this a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, see, this whole project was actually first envisioned during the Vajpayee government. At that time, Bangladesh wasn't too friendly with India, so to get connectivity with uh, northeast via sea. So you go from say Kolkata port to Sittwe port, which is on the Kaladan River basin, and from there you go a little bit inland, and then there's a 109-kilometer highway which is being built by India's assistance, which is to build it to the Mizoram border with Myanmar. So here you are bypassing Bangladesh as such, and now this port which India is operating has multiple benefits. So one is obviously we get Myanmar as a closer ally, and we need to be friendly with all our neighbors. You've seen like China has actually tried to build a string of pearls and invested in other ports in Myanmar like Sri Lanka, etc. So we need to get like, and this also helps to increase trade with Myanmar. So from India's eastern coast, Kolkata or Vishakhapatnam or Chennai, we can like ship a lot of things. So it need not just happen from Kolkata, right? Things which are being manufactured somewhere else can be shipped in to Myanmar to be sold to Myanmar. So that helps trade with Myanmar as well, which usually happens in Indian rupees. So that is there. So India can export some manufactured goods. India can import like stuff like rice or rubber or teak, etc., which Myanmar exports. And this connectivity to the northeast. See, what this does is that in the northeast, it is a little bit backward because of like hilly terrain and lack of connectivity with the rest of India, and ability to trade, etc., kind of reduces, which increases up the cost everywhere. So this kind of like logistics investment, infrastructure investment, reduces the friction. So it gets through like Mizoram, which is like the tip state there, but like slowly like through Mizoram, through internal roads, then all of the northeast gets connected. So I think that is also beneficial. India Bangladesh relationship has improved a lot. So like we are also talking about trade of northeast from Tripura, etc., with via Bangladesh as well. So having multiple parallel routes, that is good, so that we are not reliant on any one country or any one route. So that is good. And lastly, it actually helps geopolitically. And India has this a treaty called BIMSTEC, which is like between India, Bangladesh, Burma, and like in the northeastern region. And like this kind of trade will actually be beneficial for all involved around there, right? So definitely helps northeastern India and helps India geopolitically. So it's absolutely great. Also now this shows that India's logistics capability and like being able to run a port in another country, this like gives a signal or like India's achievements, right? So hopefully that gets all our neighbors, the friendly neighbors, closer to India.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with top gamers and streamers in the country to talk about the future of gaming in India. He spoke to popular gamers slash influencers like Animesh Agarwal, Mithilesh Patankar, Payal Dahre, Naman Mathur, and Anshu Bisht. The videos and images released showed that Prime Minister Modi spoke to them about increasing games based on Indian stories and mythology, perception of gaming as a career in India, and the women's participation in this. Uh, Reports also suggested that the Prime Minister was interested in learning and understanding the differences between skill based games and chance based games and their ability to offer a steady source of income. Modi ji was also seen trying the PC, console, mobile, and VR gaming. Well, the number one influencer in the country, no doubt, is Prime Minister Modi. And it was a fun interaction. It's a 30-minute something video. I encourage all of you guys to go check it out. Right? His ability to sort of connect with people, irrespective of what generation they belong to, is tremendous. And especially with the younger generation, right? These gamers. Dubbed him Namo OP. OP is game speak for overpowered, basically, right? And look, the gaming industry has had some tough times recently, right? I mean, there's a constant debate about this whole game of skill versus game of chance, right? Various state governments seek to sort of ban these games every once in a while. So that kind of an arbitration keeps happening. Then there was the GST hike on the games, and then there was these retrospective taxes, and so on and so forth. So it's not been a very it's not been a great time to be in the gaming industry. I would say over the last 7-8 months for sure. But look, the gaming industry overall worldwide is huge. Like it's really huge and growing. And with VR and AI, it's going to go to the next level. So it's a very nice outreach. And also, I think part of this is also to sort of reach out to the younger generation. Given that the elections are almost here, right? So overall, I think very fun interaction. Go check out the video. Yeah. Any comments, Abhishek, Nirav?
So, one interesting point is that perhaps there is a perception that Modi is not the most popular among, let's say, the young urban, let's say the under 25 urban crowd, right? Or let's say the elite urban 20 under 25 urban crowd. And so this was an interesting sort of venture by the Prime Minister into this demographic, right? Which may not be his biggest fan as of now. So, yeah, I guess the BJP is one party which does not believe leaving anything to chance, right? It definitely tries to target all possible demographics and corners.
I will contest that, because I think it was the case earlier, maybe 5 years back or something, that the urban young person was maybe not very warm to Prime Minister Modi, but I've seen like a, key shift in these attitudes, especially over the last 2-3 years, right? And I think here, someone like Dr. Jaishankar, right, with all of his zingers on the international stage, has played a huge part as well, right? And to a great extent, the Ram Mandir as well, Ram Mandir Pran Pratishthan that happened, and so on. So I think young people do recognize that there's a lot more optimism here in India, and that is not a common element. I mean, it's not the same in the US or Europe elsewhere, right? There's a lot of doom and gloom there. And they're way more aspirational, right? So when the Prime Minister speaks, he speaks in that aspirational tone, very, very much in contrast with the other political alternatives, right? So yeah, very nice interaction. Go check out the video, guys. All right, we'll end with some news from the world of sports. Over the past week, the FIDE and Women's Chess Candidates 2024 in a first started off together simultaneously in Toronto, Canada. With this, Indian chess also entered a new era with the candidates boasting 3 Indians among the elite 8. This is a first since inception and a far cry from the times when Vishwanathan Anand, the 5-time world champion, was a solo entrant. Doman Raju Gukesh, R. Pragnananda, Vidit Gujarati are the 3 Indian grandmasters in the open section, and Konero Hampi and Vaishali Ramesh Babu feature in the women's section. Nirav, we know that you're a chess fan, right? What's been happening?
Yeah, so okay, this candidates tournament is a tournament with where 8 people compete. They play each other twice, so there are 14 games each player has to play. To go play against the world champion, who right now is Ding Liren of China. So Magnus Carlsen has said that he doesn't want to play in this world championship anymore. He has the highest points, the highest ELO rating. That is still Magnus Carlsen. He doesn't take part in this world championship. He says that it takes too much time, there's too much preparation, and he has nothing to prove because he's been winning it comfortably. So last world championship was Ding Liren beat Ian Nepomniachtchi of Russia, and now so the world champion remains in the finals. This is the tournament to go into the finals. So it's a very exhausting tournament. You've got 7 days of continuous games and a rest day, and then another 7 days of continuous games. So we've reached game 8 right now. So the 8 players in the open section is Ian Nepomniachtchi of Russia, Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura of the US. Ali Reza Firuzja, he's Iranian descent but plays for France. I think he grew up in Iran. There is Abbasov from Azerbaijan, who's the lowest ranked player, incidentally, and 3 Indians, as you mentioned: Gukesh, Pragnananda, and Vidit Gujarati. So these 3, as of game 8, which is done, Gukesh is joint first with Nepomniachtchi, and Pragnananda is joint whatever third, fourth, because half a point behind with Fabiano Caruana. Vidit is 6th. So whoever wins this will get a chance to play later in the year against Ding Liren of China. In the women's section, we've got Vaishali, who's incidentally Pragnananda's sister, and Koneru Hampi, who's India's women number 1. They both are there, but they are in the bottom half so far. So it seems unlikely that they will win. I think Gukesh or Pragnananda have a decent shot at it, but amongst the top 4, I think right now anybody can. There are 6 more games. It is quite interesting. You can follow it or the results, the commentary. I think I would recommend Chessbase India is one portal where you have Sagar Shah and his wife commenting on the games. They walk you through even at a beginner level, or chess.com, the app. That is where you can follow the scores, you can follow the game if you are interested. You can follow the games move by move with some analysis as well. You also have on the FIDE website, I think Vishwanathan Anand is commenting live. I would encourage people to at least keep a track of it. And hopefully, hope to see an Indian go in the finals. It'll be like an India versus China kind of showdown. Maybe it might sound like a bit like Bobby Fischer versus Spassky in the 70s, which was like taken as USA versus USSR. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking up Koneru Hampi. She is the oldest, and she is 37, right? Which is, I would say not very old by chess standards, at least, right? I mean, Kasparov played well into the 50s, I think. I mean, we've got tremendous bench strength for sure. right, with all these 17, 18-year-olds coming up through the ranks. We did record a podcast way back when, maybe a couple of years back, with coach Ramesh Babu, and he spoke about the chess culture in India and what they're doing to cultivate these international masters and grandmasters. We'll link to that in the description. Do check it out. Fascinating episode. Uh, Also, have you guys checked out the amazing episode we put out with Abbas Maldiyar, the historian, on his new book, Babar, the Chessboard King? We've been getting very good reviews on that. Do check it out. It's a fascinating 1 hour, 40-minute something conversation. Really challenging various historical, narratives that have been fed to us. Yeah, do check that out as well. All right, we come to the end of this Bharatvaarta Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you like the content, don't forget to share, subscribe, also rate and review. It'll really help the algorithm suggest us to more people. From Abhishek, Nirav, and myself, thank you for joining us. Do stay safe, take care, and Jai Hind.